Imagine waking up to find half of all of the Cardano coins just gone, right? I ran the numbers on that rather wild scenario, and what I discovered completely flipped my perspective on ADA. As a Cardano holder, I'll admit that I've been frustrated lately, right? ADA's price has been stuck in the mud, even while Bitcoin has been grabbing the headlines with its big moves and that shiny ETF, right? So when I saw people online saying, let's burn a whole bunch of ADA to boost the price, it sounded a bit crazy. But it did get me thinking, what if we actually did it? At least burned half ADA's supply, entire supply in fact. Thanos snaps style, right? Hoping to, so the remaining coins would shoot up in value, right? Would our ADA bags finally go to the moon? Or are we just fooling ourselves? Well, I fell into this rabbit hole, crunching the numbers, digging up case studies, even chatting with people in our community Discord, the link is in the description by the way, and the results honestly kind of shocked me, because there is a twist in this story that I didn't see coming, and it reframed how I think about Cardano's future. So let me rewind just a bit. It's late at night, I'm scrolling through Cardano forums and on Twitter, and the vibe is tense, right? ADA holders are frustrated, but they're still hopeful, right? Kind of that, like, we're tired of waiting, but we haven't given up kind of energy, right? Some even kind of proposing a radical solution. Burn a whole bunch of ADA tokens to reduce the supply and, in theory, drive up the price. Now, this is kind of like the ultimate crypto sacrifice, right? Destroy some tokens so that the rest might be more valuable. But is it even possible with Cardano? First off, Cardano isn't built for token burning like some other projects are, right? There's no official burn function or designated dead wallet for ADA. The team never actually designed it with burns in mind. So you could technically send your ADA to an unreachable address, effectively burning those coins, but there's no built-in mechanism or expectation to do that. In fact, one proponent Cardano, or at least prominent, I should say, Cardano community member, Big P, basically suggested last year that maybe we could vote to burn 1.5 billion ADA from the treasury. Now that sparked a whole lot of debate. Some people were like, heck, make it even more. Let's burn enough ADA to jack the price up. Now, I get where they're coming from to a degree. When you're watching your investment kind of stagnate, a drastic move sounds kind of tempting. Now, burning tokens to boost value is not a brand new trick. Shiba Inu famously did this. Remember when Vitalik Buterin, the Ethereum co-founder, literally burned 41% of Shiba's total supply back in 2021? Well, the crypto world kind of went nuts. A few months later, Shiba Inu's price went on an absolute tear, rallying hard. Now that incident became proof, if you will, at least to Shiba fans, that massive burns can light a serious fire under a token's price. I mean, it's not really how it works, but, I guess give them an inch, they'll try to take a mile. Anyway, it's kind of like removing half of the cars from a congested road. Suddenly there's way less traffic and, the remaining cars can maybe zoom along a little bit faster, right? But on the flip side, not every single token that plays with fire actually gets a very happy ending, right? Stellar XLM is the cautionary tale here. They burned 50% of their entire supply in 2019. Yes, half of all of the XLM, poof, gone. But you'd think the remaining tokens would instantly double in value, right? No, that's not how it works. XLM had a brief spike and then continued to just lag behind. Why? Because demand for Stellar was weak. Now, it doesn't matter, or didn't matter, that the supply was dramatically smaller. People weren't rushing to buy the remaining XLM. So the price gains didn't stick, did they? Right? It's a sober reminder that sacrifice, or at least, sacrificing half the supply to, in pursuit of scarcity means nothing without the demand. Now, all of this was swirling in my mind as I kind of set out to do the math for Cardano. Right, I wanted to see, right, in the best possible case scenario, what ADA might be worth if half of the supply just vanished. So, here's what I found. Cardano's total supply is 45 billion ADA, and roughly 35.8 billion ADA is currently circulating in the market. So let's say, though, through some kind of miracle or community decision, that 50% of the total supply gets burned. That would be 22.5 billion ADA destroyed, leaving just 22.5 billion ADA in circulation, right? So if the market cap, basically the total value of all of the ADA, stayed the same after this burn, well, the price per coin would logically just double, right? ADA, at the point of recording is around 67 cents. So if we were to double it, it would be roughly $1.06 per ADA, right? After a 50% supply cut. Now, consider a slightly different scenario. Instead of burning half of the total supply, which includes some ADA that's not even on the market yet, what if half of all the circulating ADA, the 35.8 billion, that's actually out there in people's hands, got burned? Well, then we would have 17.9 billion ADA left circulating. Now keep that market cap the same and you're looking at around $1.34 per ADA. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Over the buck once again, basically doubling the price without any new money coming on in. But here is the reality check. Though $1.06 or $1.34 isn't exactly breaking news for Cardano, those numbers are still well below Cardano's all-time high of $3.10. Hit during the crazy market in September 2021. And guess what? ADA actually flirted with the $1 mark not that long ago. Right? It briefly popped above $1 in August during a broader kind of market rally without any kind of token burning shenanigans. So in fact, some analysts out there are saying that ADA could reclaim $1 soon just on its own merits. Now, I saw one analysis by MMB Trader that was pretty optimistic about Cardano in the short term. And another well-known chartist, Bullstar, even predicted a spike to around $1.30 for ADA. Now, they're basically predicting that the same price range from our hypothetical 50% burn might actually achieve, but purely through market forces and maybe improving sentiment. So, if a $1 plus ADA happened, or might actually happen anyway, why bother with a burn at all? Well, let's dig into the crux of all of this, shall we? Because would burning half the supply actually change anything? And here's the surprising part. Burning a huge chunk of ADA might not make the price per coin budge at all in the real world. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but there's logic behind this, right? I know that in theory, less supply equals higher price, right? But in practice, actually, if you were to destroy the coins, you're also destroying the value of those coins that it also represent. You also have to understand where are those coins that you're burning even coming from, because they're not on the open market. So unless there's a surge of new buying pressure at the same time, the market cap is likely to shrink, along with the supply. It's kind of like cutting a pizza in half, right? You have fewer slices, sure, but you also have half a pizza, right? Each slice is relatively bigger, sure, but there's also less pizza to go around in total. The only way that each slice, that's each ADA, becomes more valuable is if more people actually want to eat the goddamn pizza, or in this case, buy more goddamn ADA, right? Even after it's being cut in half. Remember our Stellar example, right? Half the supply and it still didn't create any long-term price explosion because the demand simply wasn't there. And on the other hand, Shiba Inu's big burn seemed effective because it coincided with a period of frenzied demand. It happened in a bull market, right? People were going crazy for SHIB. So the burn helped kickstart a rally because interest was surging. Right? The lesson here is that token burns alone do not guarantee any price growth. Right? They can make a difference when they happen alongside growing demand. By making future rallies more dramatic, fewer tokens means that any new buying pressures the price up faster. But a burn is not a magic wand. And that's assuming that a burn could even happen with Cardano, which is, to be honest, a rather long shot. Where does the supply even come from? Cardano supply isn't centrally controlled by some team that they can just decide to zap half of the coins away. Most ADA holders are regular people like you and me, spread across millions of wallets. To burn half of the supply, you would have to convince a huge chunk of the community to literally send their own ADA that they spent money on to an address that they'll never retrieve it from. Essentially asking people to throw away their money for the collective benefit. Yeah, that's not going to happen, is it? Right? The only remote plausible burn idea is that the Treasury proposal, i.e. burn some of the ADA set aside for the ecosystem development. But then, even a 1.5 billion ADA suggestion didn't gain any traction, and it's pretty much improbable that Cardano will ever have a significant burn event, especially of the magnitude of 50%. Now, I don't want this to be a complete kind of doom and gloom for all ADA holders. Actually, the whole kind of thought experiment has a little silver lining. It reminded me, and I hope it reminds you too, that Cardano's potential isn't about some gimmick like a coin burn for some kind of, I don't know, some kind of guy in a basement somewhere to just double his kind of theoretical value of his coins. Ultimately, no new money comes in, which means there's still the same amount of liquidity, which makes it even harder to sell. Anyway, it's about the technology here. It's about the adoption and, yes, the market cycles that can reward patience. Right now, the entire crypto space is in a fascinating spot. Bitcoin has been on a tear, right? Largely thanks to, obviously, the Bitcoin ETFs and big institutional money flowing into crypto. Now, if you've noticed, Bitcoin's price moves have kind of sucked the oxygen out of the altcoins room. It's kind of like everyone is watching Bitcoin do its thing, and historically, when we've seen this pattern, Bitcoin runs up, dominates the headlines, and maybe our family WhatsApp chats from time to time, and then eventually it chills out for a bit. And that is often when altcoin seasons, although they're mythical in my opinion, actually kick on in. Right? Bitcoin takes a breather and traders start looking at cheaper altcoins for the next potential big gain. So here we are. Bitcoin's doing its dance. ADA has been relatively quiet, but that could change, right? If that classic cycle repeats, Cardano might get its turn in the spotlight again. Plus, there are some real developments happening that could stoke demand for ADA in a legitimate way, right? For instance, Cardano is actually making it into the big leagues slowly. I mean, did you hear about Grayscale launching a new crypto index ETF? That includes Cardano. Yeah. ADA is in there alongside Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, and Solana. That means that institutional investors will have exposure to Cardano through these funds. Now, it's not a direct priced catalyst like poof, right? We burned a whole bunch of coins, but it is a signal that Cardano is being taken seriously by people with rather deep pockets. And let's not forget ongoing projects in the Cardano ecosystem, like improvements in scalability, new decentralized applications, maybe a Cardano-based stablecoin, right? And all of that good stuff that could drive real organic demand over time. If you're an ADA holder feeling a little bit anxious, I do understand, I do feel you. It's not fun seeing your assets go sideways or even slump while others are pumping, right? And it's easy to get impatient and entertain extreme ideas like burning half of a supply. But after everything that I've looked at, and I'm actually a little bit more confident that patience and strategy will pay off more than any kind of stupid quick fix. Like Cardano has a strong community, right? Just hop into the free educational Discord server, the link that's in the description, and you'll see, right? They're a passionate bunch, right? We keep each other grounded at the same time as all keeping things a bit more optimistic. Like the general sentiment is frustration, sure, but there is hope there still, right? There are some long-term believers in what Cardano is indeed building. Now this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and make sure that you consult a qualified professional. Right? Your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Now, speaking of strategies, there are some practical things that you can do as an ADA holder right now, instead of just waiting for a miracle. Now, one is staking. So if you're going to hold ADA for the long term, then you might as well earn some rewards on it. Now, I personally stake my ADA, and in fact, I do run a Cardano stake pool myself. The ticker is 𝗗𝗌k, right? CHEEK. And it's a great way to make your ADA work harder for you rather than just sitting it in your wallet, hoping for a moonshot. Now, if you haven't staked your ADA yet, it might be worth checking out our stake pool, right? Your ADA stays in your control, it's not locked up or anything crazy, and you can move it at any time. And you're simply just delegating it to help secure the network and earn some passive rewards in return. And hey, if you're already staking with another pool but want to support this channel, then you can always move your stake over to our 𝗗𝗌k pool. And it really does help us out and makes these videos even possible. Plus, it's a win-win. You earn more ADA and you get to support Cardano's network and this community all at the same time. Another tip is that, and this is something that I've learned from years of riding this crypto roller coaster, by the way, and it is to diversify where you actually trade and store your crypto. Now, exchanges can be flaky. Sometimes they halt withdrawals. Sometimes they go down right when a big opportunity hits. Now, I make sure to have accounts on multiple different exchanges as a safety net. In fact, I have a link that's in the description down below to all of the exchanges that I personally use. Now, it's part of my strategy here, right? I sign up, I complete KYC if it's needed, and I test out each platform with small trades. That way I have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, etc. So if one exchange has an issue, I can swiftly switch to another one and not miss out. For example, I'm on Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, LBank, BitGet, Blowfin, among others as well, right? And these have been pretty reliable for me, right? You'll find affiliate links for those in the description and of course via our website. And using those does support the channel here just to be transparent, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. But having multiple options, it gives me peace of mind because in crypto, you never know when one platform might suddenly freeze up. So take a moment to check out those links on my website. They're listed in the description, right? And consider at least setting up a couple of backup exchange accounts. It's like keeping spare keys for your car. It's better to have them and not need them than it is to need them and not have them. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up this little adventure today, because after running this crazy what-if scenario and seeing what a 50% burn could do, or more likely not do for Cardano, I've actually got a clearer perspective. Sure, in a perfect vacuum, burning half of the ADA supply, if that is in existence, would mathematically double the price. But right? We don't live in a vacuum, do we? We live in reality. And in reality, it could just as easily be a non-event if nobody is actually buying into it, or sacrificing half of their ADA, which is what you're asking people to do. Right? The real takeaway for me is that Cardano doesn't need wild kind of stupid gimmicks like burning half a supply to succeed. It needs time, it needs development, and more importantly, it needs demand. Now, those are the things that are happening, even if it's slower than maybe many people would like. So next time that you see someone on Twitter calling for a huge ADA burn to fix everything, then you'll know that it's not that simple, right? You don't let, don't let that kind of kill the vibe, of course. I'm still optimistic about Cardano's long-term game here, right? The crypto market is gearing up for what could be a very exciting chapter, right? Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, and now new altcoin ETFs just around the corner. There's a lot going on, you name it, right? And Cardano is positioned to be part of that story, with or without a stupid token bonfire. So if you've stuck with me this far, thank you, right? It really does. I hope this has actually helped you see the bigger picture and maybe even feel a little bit better about holding ADA through all of the turbulence. But remember, no one knows for sure what is going to happen. Not tomorrow, not next month, but what we do know is that rash decisions, like literally trying to burn your money, usually is not the answer. Smart, level-headed moves and patience are going to be key. So for now, you can smash that like button, hit subscribe if you've enjoyed this personal deep dive, and we're all on this crypto journey together at the end of the day. And trust me, there is never a dull moment here. So thanks for watching, stay hopeful, and I will catch you all in the next one.